Hey filmmakers. Hey filmmakers. Let's get hit by a car. Gwinnett Library has that. And that. Gwinnett Library has that too. Okay, so let's start in iMovie. We're going to click on Import to bring in our video clips. I'm going to come down and select my videos and then click on Import Selected. I'm going to drag the video of myself down into the timeline, zoom in a bit. I'm going to spend a minute here trimming my clip. You can click and drag the front or back of your clip, but you can also use a handy trick by positioning the playhead where you want it and holding down Command and B for blade, and that will split your clip right in half. Okay, so now we can go ahead and bring in the clip of the car. I'm just going to stick it at the end of the timeline for a minute until I find the clip of the car I want to use. I think I like this part towards the front of my clip, so I'm just going to use Command B to split the clip again, and then drag the car clip in between the two sections of my first clip, and delete the old section. The reason I did this is because I'm going to actually need to put my first clip on top of the car clip, and then stretch out the bottom clip just a bit. I'm going to come up to the top right corner and use the Video Overlay Settings button again. I'm going to leave it on Cutaway and change the opacity a bit so I can see both clips. Doing this effect in iMovie, I actually have to cut away completely from my person once the car is in the shot. In my particular video recording, I'm realizing that I have to cut away as soon as the car's shadow starts to come into screen. I use the opacity so I can line up my person and the car. Once the car enters the screen, I'll need two still images of myself to create the illusion that I'm still in the same shot as the car. The two still images I'll use are one of me waving just before the car enters the screen, and another is me reacting when I get hit by the car. I want to take a closer look at the two still images real quick. The first one shows me standing there at the last minute before the car enters the screen. You want to wait until the last possible second so you can use as much of your video, and you want to try and pick a place where you have stopped moving so that the stop in motion seems natural. For the second image, you want to have some kind of reaction to being hit by the car. In more advanced software, you can squash and stretch your image, but we can't do that, so we want some kind of image that looks like we are being moved by the car. Now that we found the image we're going to use, we're going to come to the top right corner, click on Share, and hit the Save Current Frame icon. With our image saved as a JPEG, we'll open it in Photoshop. Now we have our image in Photoshop ready to be edited. In our matte painting video, we used the magic wand tool to select the sky and remove it. But for this video, we're going to use another tool that's hidden under the same menu. To get there, you can long click or right click on the button to get the other options. Then just come down to the second option, Quick Selection Tool. Quick Selection Tool is very similar to a paintbrush. In terms of options, you can change the size of your brush and the hardness. As I've mentioned in my other videos, I like to make a copy of the background before I start making any significant edits. That way, if I make any mistakes, I can go back to the original. With my image zoomed in a little, I'm going to change the size of the brush to be a little smaller, and I'm going to go through and just try to select my person. If you hold down Option while you make selections, it'll actually remove part of your selection, which could be handy for cleaning up edges or other areas that have gotten accidentally included in your selection. And then try and pick back up any sections that maybe got left out. Once we have a selection we're happy with, we're going to come up to the top menu and choose Select, and then choose Inverse. The inverse selection selects everything that is not in our original selection, which we can now delete just by hitting the Delete key. Now, it may be hard to tell, but there are a few little artifacts left over, so I'm going to select the Eraser tool and just kind of clean those up a little bit. I'm happy with this selection, so I'm going to come up to File and choose Export, and then Quick Export as PNG, and save it. Next, I will repeat all the same steps I did for my second image. I'll find the image in iMovie with me waving, I'll export it, and then open it in Photoshop. I'll select all the background and remove it. I did notice in this image I needed to include my shadow in the selection, otherwise it looked unnatural when I brought it back into the film. Now, back in iMovie, we're going to hit the Import button in the top left corner and select our images that we just created. Now that we have imported images, we can drag them down into our timeline right after we cut away from our person who's going to get hit by the car, starting with the waving image, which was the last shot before the car enters the screen. This way we have minimal disruption between the two shots, although you can see in just the short time period between me recording myself and recording the car, the shadows changed significantly. Don't forget that iMovie automatically applies the Ken Burns effect to our still images, so go into the crop settings and make sure you choose Fit. Now we need to find the exact moment on the timeline that the car connects with our person, and trim our waving still image to that moment. Now we add our impact image and stretch it out to the end of the car's transition across the screen. Now, iMovie isn't exactly set up for this, but we're going to use a feature that iMovie has in a way that it was not intended. By clicking on the video overlay settings, we come down and choose Picture in Picture. Picture in Picture automatically resizes our image down small, but we can resize it back to fit the entire frame. Now, if we find the exact moment of impact, and then make sure we select the image in the preview screen, then this very handy icon appears. It allows us to add a keyframe. When we add a keyframe, iMovie remembers the exact position of our image at that time in the timeline. Now, if we advance the playhead one frame at a time, we can then position our image in a new location, and it automatically adds a new keyframe. We don't even have to add the new keyframe. If you want to scroll back and forth through your keyframes, these new icons will allow you to do that. So now I can advance the playhead just one frame at a time, and each time reposition my impact image to travel along with the car. Whatever you do, do not neglect sound effects. Don't forget that iMovie has its own library of great sound effects. By layering an impact, breaking glass, and tire screeching, I got a great noise that really sells the hit. One last thing I did want to demonstrate here is cropping in your shot a little better. Even though my shot still worked, I think it was a little farther out than it could have been. And closer in, you really do get a faster car movement and a stronger hit. If you need help, you can always make a book a librarian appointment to learn how to use any of the equipment available in the lab. You can also reserve time to use the space on your own.